Good day, my dear students. So we are here today to learn about potential and kinetic energy. Okay, so let's begin with this one. So kilalanin muna natin si potential energy at kinetic energy. So PE and KE. All right. So what are the units for potential energy and kinetic energy? One is kilogram meter squared per second squared. But this could be rewritten as kilogram meter times meter. Ayan. Okay. Then another unit of this is, if you can observe, yung kilogram meter at saka yung may second squared dyan, or yung kilogram meter per second squared, yan din ay newtons. Tama? So, newton yung isa dyan, tapos may isa pang natirang meter. So, therefore, another unit is Newton meters. Meron na tayong dalawa. Kilogram meter per second squared, tapos Newton meter. And the third unit is joules, or the symbol is J. All right, please take note of that. Now this time, let's talk about the formula for potential energy and kinetic energy. So let's try to divide this. Begin with potential energy. The formula to be used when you are solving for potential energy is mgh. And for kinetic energy, the formula that you can use is 1/2 mv squared. However, if you are confused with this 1/2 here, ke, the formula could be rewritten as mv squared divided by 2. Okay? Now, let's see kung anong ibig sabihin ng m. M here stands for mass. G here is acceleration due to gravity, which has a constant value. Later on, I'll tell you. And then H here is the height. Okay, now what are the units? For mass, it's in kilograms. For acceleration due to gravity, so acceleration, kung natatandaan pa, the unit is meter per second squared. And for height, the unit is meters. So combining these units, we will get kilogram meter squared. Saan galing? This one, yung dalawang M. Per second squared. By the way, class, pwede nyo rin siyang isulat as kilogram M squared S squared. Okay? And if you can still remember, this is one of the units of energy, which as I have discussed kanina. Now, for kinetic energy, M here is still mass, which has the unit in kilograms. Tapos yung velocity naman natin, or yung V, is the velocity. So the unit for velocity, class, is meter per second. Tama? However, if we are going to write this kilogram meter per second, this is not a unit of energy, correct? But remember, in the formula, it says here it has to be squared. So, i-square natin yan. Then, we'll rewrite. Ito, class, may square si M, may square din si S. So, therefore, we will get kilogram meters squared per second squared. So, ayan. Nakita nyo ba na parehas lang yung units ni potential energy at kinetic energy? Definitely yes, because they are both energy. This time, class, I would like to teach you how to look for formula. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, halimbawa, you know that the formula for potential energy is mgh, tama? Because I have told you a while ago. However, if you are looking for mass, paano mo isa-solve yun? If you're looking for height, paano isa-solve? So, ganito lang. Okay, by the way, before I forget, G here is always given because G has a constant value of 9.8 meters per second squared. Okay, so acceleration due to gravity ang ibig sabihin ng 9.8 meters per second squared. Okay, so for example, let's try to solve for M, or find the formula for M, paano natin gagawin? So, isulat natin yung original formula natin, which is MGH. Yan. Then, since we need M here, gagawin nyo lang class is, tatanggalin nyo yung mga katabi niyang variables or letters para maiwan siya dyan. So, ano yung katabi niya? G and H. So, makakancel silang dalawa. However, hindi naman sila maglalaho. Saan sila mapupunta? Dito sa kabilang side. So, isusulat natin GH. Alright? So, if you're going to the right, pwede na natin isulat that the formula for M is PE divided by P or potential energy divided by the product of acceleration due to gravity and height. So meron na tayong pangalawang formula. Bakit pangalawa? Because this is our first formula. Okay, now next, what about kung height naman ang gagamitin natin or hahanapin natin? So same thing, you write the original formula or yung formula na alam nyo yung pinagsimulan. Okay? So, ang kailangan naman natin this time is H. So, tatanggalin nyo lang yung katabi ni H. Paano? Sulat natin sa baba si M at saka si G. Makakancel. Pero hindi sila maglalaho. Ilipat nyo sila sa kabilang side. And then, let's try to the right. Height. Yan. Potential energy divided by the product of mass and acceleration due to gravity. So, ayan. Meron na tayong tatlong formula. Okay? What about kinetic energy? Ito medyo nakakalito ng very slight. So, for kinetic energy, ang gamitin natin is yung mv squared divided by 2. Alright? And then, let's say, paano naman kapag mass ang hinahanap? Okay? Kapag ganito class, na merong divisor dito sa kabilang side ng formula, magko-cross multiply kayo. Ayan. So, si KE at saka si 2. I-write nyo siya. Magiging 2 KE equals, ayan, ito yung natira, MV squared. MV squared. So, kapag ganyan na class, pwede na natin siyang alisan ng katabi. Okay? So, kung kailangan natin si mass, ang tatanggalin natin is yung katabi niya na si v squared so that this could be cancelled. Pero again, hindi siya mawawala. Ilipat natin sa kabilang side. And then this could be rewritten. Isulat niyo para hindi kayo malito. M equals 2KE divided by v squared. So, this is now our formula for the mass. Okay? Then, isa pang hahanapin natin is the formula for velocity. So, paano naman natin kukunin? So, ganun ulit, from the original formula, KE equals mv squared divided by 2. Anong unang gagawin? Iko-cross multiply natin si KE at saka si 2. And we will get 2KE equals mv squared. So, since kailangan natin si velocity or si v, ang tatanggalin naman natin is yung katabi ng si m. Cancel. Lipat sa kabilang side. So, this could be rewritten as v squared equals 2KE divided by m. However, this is not the formula yet because as you can see, naka-square pa siya. Kailangan lang natin is velocity. So, paano ba natin gagawin yan? Ang gagawin lang natin, or ang gagawin nyo lang is, v squared equals 2KE divided by m. Kunin nyo lang yung square root nito. So, in this case, this will be cancelled. Tapos, i-rewrite na natin siya. V equals the square root of 2KE divided by m. And this is now our third formula. Okay? Medyo nakakalito, but practice makes perfect. Okay, so right now, you know the formula to be used when solving for potential energy and kinetic energy, or kung pagbalik-balik ta rin man, kung mass or velocity or height man yung hinahanap, you already know how to do it, plus you know the units that should be used. Now let's try to solve problems. So we'll start with potential energy muna tayo. So this is our first example here. What is the potential energy of a 10 kilogram? Ayan na, 10 kilogram rock sitting on a cliff 30 meters high. So of course, the first thing that you have to do is to write your given. So ano na yung mga given dyan? We have here 10.0 or 10 kilograms. And of course, 10 kilograms is your mass. Okay, then ano pa? Given here is your 30 meters. And 30 meters is your height. Ano pa yung given? Given is also acceleration due to gravity. And that is 9.8 meters per second squared. All right? So what are you asked for? So ang ating unknown, yung hinahanap natin dito is the potential energy. And then next, what is the formula that you will be using? The formula is PE equals mgh. All right? And then next, let's try to solve. So for the solution, okay, substitution lang tayo. PE equals mgh. So let's write the values. So PE here, ano yung mass? 10 kilograms. Ano yung G? Tingnan sa given. So G is 9.8 meters per second squared. And then ano yung height? Height is 30 meters. So this is very easy because all you have to do is to multiply. Multiply lang yan, isang diretsyo na yan. Kuha kayo ng calculator. Okay, so 10 times 9.8 times 30. And what will you get? Okay, ito pa pala yung na-solve, no? So, magamit din ako ng calculator ko. Saglit lang. So, 10 times 9.8 times 30, that will give you 2,940. 40 what? Eh, alam niyo na class, di ba? Potential energy yan. So, pwede nyo na kaagad isulat joules. Okay? Or, kung gusto nyo gamitin yung isa pang unit, 2,940 Newton meter. Or kung gusto nyo yung mas mahaba-haba, 2,940 kilogram meter squared per second squared. So, N of this. Okay? Pero kung gusto nyo, ito na lang. Yan. That is correct. Okay, so next up we have problem number 2, which still involves the potential energy. But this time, we're not looking for the potential energy, pero let's see kung ano. So the problem says, a man climbs onto a wall that is 3.6 meters high and gains 2,268 joules of potential energy. What is the mass of the man? Okay, so this time, ang hinahanap natin, class, is yung mass. Okay, so paano natin gawin yan? Kaya ako tinuro sa inyo a while ago kung paano mag-derive ng formula or kung paano paikot-ikutin yung formula. But first, mag-start ulit tayo by writing our given. So here, tignan, 3.6 meters. So that is your height. Height is 3.6 meters. Then ano pa? 2,268 joules. So that's your potential energy. 2,268J. And then, what else is another given? Of course, palaging given si acceleration due to gravity with a value of 9.8 meters per second squared. Okay? And then next is to identify the unknown. Ano yung hinahanap? Of course, we already know it from the problem. So mass. And then next is yung formula na gagamitin natin. Pero kung hindi nyo kabisado yung formula, pwede nyo i-derive. Okay? So paano i-derive? You write the original formula, PE equals mgh. And then since kailangan nga natin si mass, ano yung sabi ko? Tatanggalin lang natin yung katabi ni mass. Kasi GH, kasi kailangan solo lang siya dyan. Kaya yun ang may katabi. So, maka-cancel, pero hindi sila mawawala. Lumipat lang sa kabilang side. Therefore, our formula for mass, kapag nire-write natin is PE divided by the product of acceleration due to gravity and height. Okay? And for the solution, of course, ang gagawin na lang natin is sa substitute ng mga values. Okay, so sulat natin ulit. So M here, ano yung potential energy natin? That is 2268 joules divided by yung gravity na 9.8 meters per second squared. I-multiply natin yan sa height na 3.6 meters. Okay? So, pwede nyo i-diretso to i-solve sa calculator pero kung nahihirapan kayo, then isa-isahin natin. Okay? Yan. So, pag minultiply natin si 9.8 meters per second squared at 3.6, ang makukuha natin, class, ay, sabi ni calculator, it's 35.28 meters squared. Bakit naging meter squared? Ayan po, 2 meters yan. Meter squared per second squared. And this time, pwede na kayong mag-divide. Okay, so 2268 joules divided by 35.28 meters per second squared. And what you will get is 64.29. So since this is mass, ano yung unit? Yes, correct. It's in kilograms. Therefore, the mass of the man is 64.29 kilograms. Okay, so we are now on problem number 3. So let me read it. A box has a mass of 5.8 kilograms. The box is lifted from the garage floor and placed on a shelf. If the box gains 145 joules of potential energy, how high is the shelf? Okay, so that is mga given. We have here, you can see 5.8 kilograms. And of course, that 5.8 is your mass. Okay, then meron din tayo dito 145 joules. And 145 joules is of course your potential energy. Then another given is of course acceleration due to gravity, 9.8 meters per second squared ang value. And what is our unknown? Our unknown here is yan, how high. Diba? So we are looking for the height of the shelf or h. Then next, kailangan natin malaman ang formula na gagamitin natin. So if you can memorize the formula, okay lang. But if not, memorize nyo ito. P equals mgh and then you just learn to derive. So we are looking for h here. Tanggalin ang mga katabi ni h. Okay. Lipat siya sa kabilang side. And then rewrite. I-rewrite nyo class para hindi kayo malilito. The formula that you will use is h equals potential energy divided by mg. Okay? And then, doon na tayo sa solution. So, ganun pa rin. H equals, what is our PE? 145 joules. Baka malito kayo sa 5 at saka sa J ko. Divided by, the mass is 5.8 kilograms. And of course, G, or acceleration due to gravity, is 9.8 meters per second squared. Tapos, of course, you need the help of your friendly calculator. 145 joules divided by, ito, pag minultiply natin si 5.8 at saka si 9.8, ang makukuha nating sagot ay, let's see, 56.84. Okay? And ano yung units? Copyin mo lang. So, kilogram, meter per second squared. And then, pwede ka nang mag-divide. So, since we are looking for height, pwede mo na kaagad isulat class yung unit, which is meters or m. Then, divide mo na. 145 divided by 56.84, you will get 2.55 meters. So this is now our answers. So that's it. I have shown you how to solve for the potential energy, for the mass, and for the height. Okay, so this time we will be solving problems about kinetic energy. So meron din tayong tatlong problems. Okay, so sample problems natin. So first up, A car with a mass of 700 kilograms is moving with a speed of 20 meters per second. Calculate the kinetic energy of the car. So, dapat magaling kayo mag-identify ng mga given. So, ito, makikita ka agad yan. 700 kilograms. So, that is your mass. 700 kg. And then speed of 20 meters per second. That is actually class your velocity. Okay, anong difference ba ng speed at saka ng velocity? Pag speed kasi, hindi na ina-identify yung direction. Pero kapag velocity, sinasama yung direction. However, in problems like this, kapag naka meters per second yung unit, it's understood that that is already the velocity. So, ayan, yung mga given natin. And then, ano yung kailangang i-solve? We are asked to solve for KE, or the kinetic energy. So the formula, of course, madali lang. KE equals mv squared divided by 2. So substitution lang tayo. Mass is 700 kilograms times v squared. So yung value daw ng velocity na 20 meters per second ay i-square natin. So, ganyan siya pag sinulat, then divided by 2. Okay? So, class, so, kokopyahin natin ha, yung 700 kilograms muna. Isa-isahin natin para you will not get confused. So, yung 700 kilograms, ayan na. So, paano natin ito gagawin class? Itong 20 meters per second squared. Pag sinabi mong 20 squared, ayan, 20 squared. Hindi yan 20 times 2. But this means 20 times 20. Okay? So, 20 times 20 is 400. Okay? Tapos plus, this one, yung square dito is, mapupunta rin siya kay m. So, kapag sinulat mo siya, m squared, and ayan, madidistribute din siya kay s. Meter per second squared, then divided by 2. Okay? So, dito na natin isulat. Yan. So, 700 kilograms times 400. Okay? Ilan yan? Okay, tapos, i-divide nyo na siya sa 2. So, using your calculator, you will be getting the correct answer, or the final answer is 140,000. Oh, class. Kinetic energy yan. So, anong unit? Tama, it's in joules. Ano pa? Pwede nyo rin siyang isulat as 140,000 Newton meters. Or, kung gusto nyo yung mahaba, 140,000 kilogram meter squared per second squared. So, kahit alin dito, ang isulat yung sagot, i-accept ko naman yun. Okay? So, that is just problem number 1. Okay, so we are now on problem number 2. This still involves kinetic energy. Okay, so let's read the problem. A tennis ball is traveling at 50 meters per second. So, ano yung 50 meters per second? Dapat alam nyo na by now. And has a kinetic energy of 75 joules. Calculate the mass of the tennis ball. So, by reading and understanding the problem, you would be able to identify the given and what is unknown. So, start tayo sa given. It's so good to solve problems like this. Isusulat mo para maging organized ka or maintindihan. But if you could do the shortcut, okay lang naman, as long as you arrive with the correct answer. So, given natin, we have here V, which has a value of 50 meters per second. And then we have here kinetic energy, which is 75 joules. And our unknown is mass, or M. Okay? So, formula. Paano natin isosolve yung formula? Kung natatandaan, isulat. Pag nakalimutan, pwede naman tayong mag-derive. So, KE equals mv squared divided by 2. Anong gagawin? Cross multiply. So, 2KE equals mv squared. Tama? Tapos, tanggalin yung katabi ni M kasi yun ang kailangan natin si M. So, V squared here gets cancelled and ililipat natin siya dito sa kabilang side. Gaya ng sabi ko, you try to rewrite your formula or your final formula. So it's M equals 2KE divided by V squared. Okay? And then now, for the solution, substitution na lang tayo. M equals 2 multiplied by the value of our kinetic energy, which is 75 joules, divided by our V. Ang V natin is 50 meters per second, pero i-square natin siya. Okay? So, 2 times 75, what is that one? 150, di ba? Tapos ito class, yan, square daw yan. So, 50 times 50 is 2,500 meters squared per second squared. Pero medyo sige na nga, isulat na natin. 2 times 75 is 150 joules divided by, ito class, yung 50 meters per second squared, paano kukunin? Yung 50 squared. Paano yung 50 squared? Gagawin yung class is 50 times 50. So 50 times 50, that will give you 2,500. So 2,500 meters squared per second squared na siya. Okay? And then now, you could solve it na. Divide natin. 150 divided by 2,500 with your calculator. You should be getting 0.06. Pero may kulang. Anong kulang? Of course, the unit. And what is the unit? Since this is mass, ang unit ng mass ay, of course, kilogram. So here is our final answer. Okay, so we are left with one more problem. All right, so we are down with our last problem, problem number 3, and this still involves kinetic energy. Okay, so an object has a kinetic energy of 25 joules and a mass of 34 kilograms. How fast is the object moving? Okay, so again, let's start with the given. We have here kinetic energy, which is 25 joules. And then we have here the mass, which is 34 kilograms. Okay, so unknown is your how fast, so that is velocity or V. Okay, the next formula. Ayan, nakalimutan na yung formula for velocity. So, para isolve natin yan, let's go back to what formula we know. So, KE equals mv squared divided by 2. Cross-multiply muna natin si 2 at saka si KE. So, that will give us 2KE equals mv squared. Now, tanggalin natin si M. So, it will be cancelled. May iwan si V or V squared. And this one also. Then try to rewrite V squared equals 2KE divided by M. Ayan na ba ang formula? Of course not. So ituloy natin yung kwento dito. Okay. So yung V squared equals 2KE divided by M. Kukunin natin class yung square root. Ayan. So that this will be cancelled. Then rewrite natin, velocity equals the square root of 2KE divided by M. Okay? So for our solution, yan, medyo very slight lang naman na nakakalito. Substitute tayo, V equals, kopyahin yung square root sign, 2 here, and then what is our KE? It's 25 joules divided by our mass, which is 34 kilograms. Okay? So, huwag kakalimutan, ilagay yung square root. So, 2 times 25, that is 50 joules divided by 34 kilograms. So, ito class, pag dinivide nyo yung 50 at saka yung 34, what will you get? So using a calculator, 50 divided by 34, you will get 1.47. So, ayan class, 1.47. However, this one, hindi nyo pa siya na-square root. So, ang gagawin nyo class is hanapin nyo yung square root sign dun sa calculator ninyo. Depende yan sa calculator, ha? Tapos, i-input nyo. Square root of 1.47 and you will get the value 1.21. And since this is velocity, alam mo na dapat yung unit. Pag velocity, it's meters per second. And that's it. You are done with another problem involving kinetic energy. All right. Thank you, students. That's it for today. Medyo mahaba yung naging usapan natin. But to sum up, you were able to solve problems involving potential energy and kinetic energy. And you also learned how to derive formula. And of course, you learned about the units that you should be using. Okay, bye everyone.